A new VS Code fork just dropped. Google's Antigravity is a VS Code fork cursor killer from some of the folks that made Windsurf, which was kind of acquired by Google, and it's touting many of the planning features, agentic stuff that is built into Amazon's Kiro, which in turn is a VS Code fork cursor killer, similar to the features of ByteDance Tray, with an integrated browser for visual feedback, sort of like Bolt.new, which is V0 killer, out to get Lovable and Replit, not to be confused with Google IDX, which is now Firebase Studio, or Google Jewels, which is an asynchronous agentic coding similar to cursor background agents, which is aiming to compete with a lot of the terminal UI apps like OpenAI Codex, which is a Claude code killer, but nobody cares because everyone's using OpenCode. I did that like 11 times. I'm not going to re-record that. There's a lot going on right now. Google is launching their own IDE for agentic coding, and it's kind of neat. It's kind of not very good, but kind of also really good. I've been playing with it for a few hours, and I'm going to dive in to show you sort of like what are the features and how do you tackle these things. All right, right off the bat, Google Antigravity is trying to solve the problem of like, what does an agentic UI look like, right? We've all been trying to cram everything into an IDE so far, or we've been doing everything in the terminal, but I think that there is some sort of new UI for that, and that's what they're trying to do here. So of course they have your typical IDE experience, right? You got your chat on the right, you got your code in the middle, you got your files here. We've seen that. You click next, 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 you click accept, all that stuff we're used to. Now they're also giving you a second UI, which is a agent manager, which is an inbox for all of the agents that you are working on. So you can see here, I've got several workspaces of things that I'm working on. And they also have this idea of playground, which is just, you want to spin something up quickly without having to make a folder or npm init or do any of that. You can simply just get up and running really quickly. So that's probably trying to tackle more of the like V0 Bolt.new. And then workspaces is your existing projects where you have a little bit more long going. You can convert your playground into a workspace at a later point. Then when you want to go ahead and build something, it does some planning steps. So it doesn't just kind of YOLO, let's go nuts. And in recent months, we've seen several things. We've seen plan mode from Cursor, which is before it actually goes off and generates a whole bunch of code. It sort of goes back and forth several times to figure out what it is that you actually want. And then we've also seen the task-based coding, which is in Kiro, where it will make a whole bunch of steps that it needs to hit and go through them one by one. This is kind of doing both of that. So when you go ahead and tell it to do something, so I did a couple examples here. I tried to make it a meme generator, and I made a little syntax podcast website. What it does is it makes an implementation plan of this is what I want to do. Then it will chop that up into different tasks that it needs to do. So this is a really simple, but I did a little bit of a more complex one here with this meme generator here, and it would nest them pretty deep inside of each other. And then once you have each of your tasks and you're happy with the implementation plan, then you can kind of just let her rip. And then the walkthrough is sort of the after the fact. I see this in Cursor a lot. Is often Cursor will make like a markdown file telling you what it did. And the walkthrough here is really nice because it will tell you exactly what it did. But part of the walkthrough is it sort of checks its work, right? It can actually visit as a built-in browser. It can actually visit the website. It can click on things. It has like full Puppeteer integration. I'm assuming that's what it is. We saw Google released their MCP server for Google Dev Tools. I think that's why they were building it specifically for this. So what it will do is it'll spin up a browser, and then it will take screenshots. It will try to click on things. It will record videos for you as it's going through the website, sort of checking its work, making sure everything actually works, and then going back to itself if something doesn't work and fixing it. Now, another really cool thing about this is that at any point you can give it feedback for what you're working on. So if you have a diff right here, you can give it feedback on the diff. If you go into the implementation plans here, you can give it feedback right inside of here. Normally, I would just be in my chat window right here typing exactly what I want. But on any of the points, whether it's the implementation plan, the walkthrough, or the task list, you can give it feedback as well as in the chat window here, and then it will take that into account revise its implementation plan, revise its task list, and then sort of keep going through with it, which I really like. It will take screenshots as well. You can go ahead and give it reviews of the screenshot. You can even highlight parts of the screenshot and say, this is not working very well, which I think is pretty cool. This is like a whole tip to tail experience where you're getting everything from the terminal, NPM installing everything all the way through to the actual browser UI, clicking integration, making sure everything looks good that way. Another cool thing it can do is it can create assets for you. So I'm assuming it's using Nano Banana and all of those other models from Google. From what I've seen and what I've done, it doesn't do a fantastic job at it just yet, but that's always been a sticking point for it where it doesn't actually create assets for you, right? You can't tell it to go make an icon or make an SVG or something like that. It doesn't do a great job at that. Now, it has all the other features that you're probably used to, right? It has a tab completion and next edit solution where it will tab to it. But honestly, in my experience, nothing is as good as Cursor. I've been talking to a lot of the Copilot folks about making it better in Copilot, but the Cursor tab suggestion and next edit where it tabs to where you think you want it to go is by far way better than anything else. Now, I've worked with it for a couple hours. What are my thoughts on it? Kind of half baked. This stuff is moving crazy fast right now, and you can tell that they're just like burning the midnight oil and shipping this stuff out as fast as they possibly can. And it shows. There's a lot of like rough edges around it. Also, Gemini 3 just launched today, and I've getting all kinds of agent timeouts, which I'm not gonna fault them for that because it just launched and they're getting hammered on that. But going through it, you can see I just been like continue, start the app, please. Like I wasn't really sure what to do next. The UI on it of like it obviously has multiple steps, but I would often get to a point where I'm just like, what next? Like, can we keep going? And then on the same point, I found that like with a lot of this agentic stuff is if you're not running it in like a container where it's a little bit more safe, you can set up the agent and you can let the agent decide if it's safe enough to run a command or terminal commands as well. If you don't just like YOLO it where it can like RF your entire hard drive, you find yourself just like sitting there. And I find myself like sitting there. Oh, this is kind of taking a little bit long. Let me go do something else. And then I would come back to it and it would be like, hey, can I NPM install something, please? Or like, sure. You click the button and then it goes ahead. It runs terminal commands and it has access to the terminal output, which I found to be fairly decent. But I did find that it needed to like, there was several instances where it needed to send an enter and it would wait 5 seconds, send the enter command, get the result, wait 5 seconds. And like, that's fine when you're running it as a background agent, but when you're just like sitting there waiting for it to go, it feels kind of slow. So it is a VS Code fork, so you can import your settings from Cursor, VS Code, or Windsurf. In my experience, it didn't do a great job at that. Cursor also didn't do a great job at importing from VS Code. And then the extensions, it didn't import any of them, and they use the OpenVSX repo, which is the right move. You're technically not allowed to use Microsoft's plugin repository, and Cursor does some weird stuff to get around that, as far as I know, and install them directly from VS Code. So a lot of the other editors, Windsurf did this and Antigravity does this, is they are using this OpenVSX repo, which has most of the plugins, but even I have a fairly popular theme and I often forget to update it on that when I publish a new one to the VS Code store. So you might not find all of the extensions that you are used to, as well as maybe possible security issues when something gets out. I know Microsoft is very good at catching those types of things. So thoughts here. The browser integration is probably the best that I've seen so far. Being able to actually open up a browser, talk back and forth with the browser, take screenshots, click on items, all of that, that is by far the best I've seen so far. And I'm excited to see how that will take our development a little bit one step further. The Agent Manager inbox, that's actually pretty nifty. I assume that they are going to eventually move this like to the cloud so that you can be running these agents all the time. Like right now, I'll close my laptop. These are going to stop running, but I assume that you'll be able to run those on the cloud, similar to how you can do that with Cursor background agents. Just hope that speed and polish of the editor gets better and in the coming weeks, and hit subscribe. In the coming weeks, we'll probably do a follow-up to this once all these bugs get worked out and say, where are we at with this new VS Code fork?